So World War II was such a massive undertaking that required so many different resources and personnel that we start seeing opportunities open up for different minority groups. Um, because if you need to keep a war going on, then you don't really have the time to be racist and segregate people out. So African Americans are going to join the war in large numbers. Now they, in spite of a war going on, are going to serve in segregated military units because this is still the era of Jim Crow. Now, they were assigned to non combat roles, but they wanted to fight rather than just support roles. And one of the more well known units of African Americans in World War II were the Tuskegee Airmen. They were some of the best fighter pilots. These are all African American men who were trained in the Tuskegee Institute, and they were ace fighter pilots, like I said. They served in Italy. They served wherever stuff needed to be escorted by air. They shot down a ton of planes, and they were super good at their jobs. Without the Tuskegee Airmen, shipments of goods would have been interrupted to the front lines. So just to show you how awesome the Tuskegee Airmen were, these guys got the Distinguished Unit Citation 3 times. That means they were one of the best, most effective units in the war. They got Silver Stars for bravery, 96 Distinguished Flying Crosses to 95 airmen. One guy was so good, he won it twice. 14 Bronze Stars for bravery in action, 744 air medals, 8 Purple Hearts. Now, you get a Purple Heart for being wounded in combat. Now, these guys had hundreds of pilots with them, but only 8 of them got Purple Hearts. So not a lot of them got hurt. They were just that good at avoiding being injured. Now, besides African Americans, we also had Asian groups that were earning a lot of discrimination back at home. See, if you're a Japanese American during World War II, you had a couple of choices. You could either get shipped off to concentration camps in the desert, which I'll talk about later, or you could join the army in what they call the Nisei regiments. See, Japanese Americans felt like they had something to prove because a lot of people were seeing them as enemies, even though they were second generation. These guys went overseas to Europe and they fought super effectively. Here you see a Nisei unit in front of a captured Nazi flag. Now, to show you how awesome they were, 13,000 men served in the Nisei units. Remember, all Asian Americans. They received 18,000 awards between them. Okay, 9,486 Purple Hearts. Well over half of them were wounded in combat, often because they were sent into different battles and engagements first. And it's always the pawns that get hit first. 4,000 Bronze Stars for bravery and 21 Medals of Honor, which is the highest military award that a soldier could earn. All right, that's for extreme bravery. That's above and beyond anything. So, other examples of minority units, Native Americans got into the war effort too. There were just a handful of these Navajo code talkers. Now, most of communications during World War II had to be sent in code because you don't want to just be speaking English and have your enemy intercept and interpret it because then they know what you're going to do. Navajo language was used in the Pacific. Now, the advantage the Navajo language had was it wasn't written down. It's plenty easy to go get an English dictionary and figure out what's going on. But there was no record of Navajo outside of the people who spoke it. So you have one Navajo code talker on one end of a transmission, you have another on the other end. They talk to each other in their language and then they interpret it. And the only way to crack Navajo is to actually have a Navajo code talker on your side. So this language was never broken by the Japanese. This is the only unbroken code of World War II. Hispanic Americans are going to fight in World War II, but they're not going to fight in segregated units as African Americans had to. So overall, minority units are going to suffer high casualties, face severe racism, and not get the support they need. But Oppressed groups feel like they have to go above and beyond to show their worth. And as I illustrated, these minority groups contributed greatly to the war effort. The war literally could not have been won without African Americans, the Niseys, and the Navajo code talkers. Just for fun, this is an example of Navajo code. So, just for example, if a message needed to be sent about a ship, the Navajo word they would use for ship was to dine ich. Now, that would get translated as Sea Force, but only another Navajo would know that Sea Force really means ship. So, like I said, the only way for the Japanese to have cracked this code was for them to have a Navajo on their side.